and welcome back to another episode of Life Around Us. Today, we will be discussing business and relationships.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So, before we get started, I know some of you had some questions about the intro music that we have to the podcast. And it says, SWIF. So, we just first and foremost want you to know that I came up with the idea for SWIF. You're welcome. However, we'll let Vaughn explain what it means.
Lord have mercy.
Go on.
Why would you lie to these people
Go
like
on.
that?
Go on. Tell them what it means.
Okay, so it means sing what I feel. And
So SWIF is
an acronym.
Yes.
That's right. Yes, means sing what I feel.
Okay. I'm with it.
Yes. Ashley did not. She does a lot of great things, but she did not come up with that name, contrary to her own belief.
Perception is reality. Carry on.
So I'm saying every crazy person ever.
Carrying on, so that is what it means, and it is none other than Vaughn Willis singing the intro to our podcast. So, let's jump right into this topic, you guys. Is it possible for you to be in a relationship and do business with your significant other? What are y'all thoughts?
I'm going to pass the peas to Anthony.
Wait, hold on. Why me first?
You first.
Well, see, because I feel like y'all should go first since, y'all are the prime candidates.
But we got to go counterclockwise according to the arbitrary rules, section A-1.
Okay. So, business and relationships.
Yes.
Is it possible to have both?
Is it possible?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I feel...
Now you want to chime in?
I'm
Right.
just saying.
I
You know
know.
what I'm saying?
All things are possible. You know what I'm saying?
Right. All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got.
No. Keep going, please.
Look, obviously, it's possible for people to be in, to run businesses together. I mean, man, I see people do it in all sectors of the United States, especially people from other countries.
Right.
You ever went to a Mexican food restaurant and seen some black people working in there?
Yeah. True.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really? Where?
In Detroit.
That don't count, man.
Okay, no.
Louis.
The answer is no. But
Like,
yeah,
I've seen some.
In like actual Mexican food restaurants?
you're talking about like authentic
Okay.
Mexican
Well,
food
no.
restaurants. No.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, they keep it in the family, bro. I'm telling you, like they, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, there's a lot of people who in their cultures, they probably accustomed to having the family business, you know?
Right.
So, and the family also consists of, mama and papa, or papa and papa, or mama and mama.
So you talking about just general relationships?
Papa and papa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm over here thinking we talking
Like,
about.
I said significant others. So not like family relationships. We're talking about like if you were to be my man, hypothetically, Vaughn. And
Hypothetically.
That's what.
I'm all the way your man right now.
That's why I'm like,
Somebody help me understand.
like what just happened 30 minutes ago?
Hypothetically, I'm out of this podcast.
So, oh my God.
She said that so straight too. Like, so hypothetically, Vaughn,
If you was my man.
if you was black, hypothetically,
And listen.
Right.
Listen.
So not hypothetically. So what we're referencing is, can you do business with the person you're in a relationship with? So your significant other, not your mom, not your dad, not your sister, not your brother, but your boyfriend, girlfriend, or if you're a husband and wife. Is it feasible for you to have a relationship and do business as well?
I think you can.
Okay.
Now whether or not you should, I think just depends on the dynamics of your relationship. You know what I mean? So like, if you and your significant other, already having relationship problems, maybe don't do business together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But as far as like whether or not you absolutely can do business together.
I mean, anything is possible. We can do whatever. But yeah, to piggyback off of Vaughn's point, it's like, should you do it? Like, if y'all are, in a relationship and y'all want to start a business, but you guys are already having trust issues, should you really be going into business together?
Hell no.
Like, if y'all can't even trust each other, I don't think it's best to, set yourselves up in a situation where now money is involved,
Well, some people feel like going into business could possibly fix the problems in the relationship, sort of like having a baby together. Some people think that having a baby together will fix their problems.
A lot of people think that. So I don't know where that.
Who are these people?
Yeah, I don't know where that way of thinking comes from.
Yeah, there are for real people who feel like if they maybe go into business or have babies together, it will fix their relationship.
The baby thing I've definitely heard of, and that it doesn't make any sense because it's like if y'all relationship is already strenuous, like you about to add a whole other element to it that requires for y'all to be the best that you can be as people. So how is that gonna fix your relationship if you guys aren't even good to begin with?
This is all I hear. Having relationship problems, throw a baby in front of it. It compounds everything. Right. / makes it better.
Go ahead and pop a baby out.
My gosh. These gonna be them Corona kids. That's what a lot of people about to do. Yep. They are quarantined and they don't know what else to do, so they're gonna have a baby and they're gonna be Corona kids. That's what they're gonna be called, the Corona kids. This whole generation. But yeah, people. I just think that if you have a good relationship and you see that your significant other have strengths that can help propel your business forward, or vice versa, if you have strengths that can help propel their business forward, then you guys can work together if you want to. Going into straight up business together, hey, I know that there's people out there that's doing it, so it's clearly possible.
So, getting into that, do you guys know if anyone, personally, or even just on the whole famous market, people that you know of who have gone into business together that you think are good examples?
I absolutely do, and we actually have a couple of interviews today for that. Do. Yeah. So my friends Nancy and Brian Young, and then Collette and Brian Watson, which we'll be talking to them later on today. But celebrity-wise, I'm trying to think. Because we kind of pre-talked about this topic before.
See, I had brought up Jay-Z and Beyonce, but Vaughn, you said that they don't really count because they're in the same field, but they're not in business together.
I mean, unless they do a feature on each other's track, right? You know what I'm saying? If they do that, then obviously with that song, they are doing business together. With that particular music video, they're doing business together. But as far as being a brand, it's not like they're splitting off from the Beyonce brand and the Jay-Z brand and then merging them together into the Jay-once brand. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're still their own thing at the end of the day. So even if, God forbid, they were to ever split up, he's still going to be Jay-Z, she's still going to be Beyonce. But if they make a brand that is intertwined together, things probably could become more complicated, if anything bad were to happen.
But you don't think that things are low-key kind of like that? Because, I mean, if Beyonce comes out with a new album or a new song, you really don't think that Jay-Z's behind the scenes helping her put it together, helping her create it? Doesn't that in a way make them they are in business together in that way?
Yeah, they're in business together as much. I think that's the difference between in business together when you want to be in business together, and then business together, we formed an entity together.
Right.
Okay,
so there's a difference.
Yeah, if Beyonce goes, hey, honey, I want you on this track, and he's like, okay, boom, or she goes, hey, honey, I want your input on this album.
Yeah.
That's the difference, because she gets to pick and choose when he's able to participate because it's her project.
Right.
But when it's something that they're sharing, we're going to do a project together, now you're talking about intellectual property and licensing and who has rights to what and whose copyrights, and then when you start sharing all of that stuff, hey, divorce court is all about how to separate what you've created together. Yeah. So, I think things can become a little complicated if things go awry. But as long as things are going great, it's hey, full steam ahead.
Now, speaking on that, like, what about the whole jealousy aspect of it, though? Because isn't that, like, a big factor as well? You know, because to go back to, you know, like Jay-Z and Beyonce, like, when you're both, like, huge icon moguls, like, I personally would feel like it would be hard to keep, you know, like, the jealousy down, because it's like the other person has, like, their fans and their people, and it's like, and if you're not doing as good as them one year, you know, like, your fans are gonna let you know first off,
right? And
so it's like you also have to deal with that whole ego sense too, you know. So, like, do you have to put the ego behind, or does the ego help motivate you?
Dang, that's a toughie.
Hey, listen, I went to college.
I think I think that with that example that you're giving, like, there definitely has to be humility, right? So it's not like for that example, it's not like a traditional relationship where you maybe have one person that's just like super, super talented and they got fans and, you know what I'm saying, and the other person is an accountant and works 9 to 5, you know what I'm saying? So maybe it's a little bit easier for that accountant to support the significant other because, you know, they have a regular schmegular job and, you know, I just come to your shows and I support you. But if both of you are in that avenue, then I could see how that could be a little difficult, but I don't think it should be a jealousy factor. Like, if you're in a relationship, to me, the way that I look at it is like, this is a team. So, you know, we're teammates. So when you up to bat, like, I'm cheering you on and I'm like, okay, knock out a home run. You know what I mean? Not like, boo to you. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the same thing, you know, you have to think the same way in a relationship as it pertains to the example that you gave. Like, I'm here to support you. I'm here to be your cheerleader. Whatever you need to help, you know, I'm there. I got you.
Yeah,
know?
Like in this particular field that I'm in, you have to have a partner who wants to and cheers for your success. You can't, you know what I'm saying, as far as that aspect of jealousy, like, you know, you can't have somebody who is like, you know, mad every time you ascend or, you know, don't want you to take on opportunities that could prepare your career forward. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, you not only would you not be able to do business with them, but you wouldn't even be able to do a relationship with them.
Right.
From, you know, from the standpoint of, you know, of an artist. But like, as far as like, yeah, I don't know, jealousy in any relationship, I don't care what it is, whether it's friendship, business, or romantic, you know, there's really no place for it.
So, actually, to go back to your point, it's almost like you have to treat it like you guys are a team, you know? Like, that's the one way to be successful with it is like you are doing you, but I'm supporting you, and when I do me, the lights went out. And when I'm doing me, then, you know, like, you support me, and that's how we keep the strength and the bond, you know, and keep the motivation going, you know?
I mean, just if I may, hypothetically, if Vaughn and I were in a relationship, but no.
I swear for God,
that's my last one.
I'm walking out of this podcast.
But no, like, you know, in our relationship, I can't speak for Vaughn, so I'll let him speak for himself, but, you know, it was different for me because I've never dated someone that was in the same industry as me. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, which you guys are.
Yes. Yeah. So, it was definitely different because it's like now I sit in a seat where, you know, when he's on and he has gigs, like, I'm an audience and I'm like, yay, you know, go you. Right. And then when I have my shows and I'm acting or I'm singing, you know, then he's like, yay, go you. Now, it is a little different because while we are in the same similar industry, like, I do musical theater. So I really wasn't, I mean, I guess if you want to call it like the gig life, I really wasn't like inundated in that side of it out here. Like, it was just strictly, you know, my musical world, you know. And so when I came over into this world, like, Vaughn is very, I'm known in my world. But on this side of the scheme, like, Vaughn is very, very known. So there's times where if I go do a gig, you know, and people that don't really know me on that side of the world are like, they see Vaughn and it's like, oh, can you sing a song or two? And I'm like, you're here to support me, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I would definitely say that when you're talking about having a relationship in the same industry, it can get difficult if you don't have those, what I call like precursor conversations of, for example, like we had to have that conversation of, what does support look like for you? Like, he had to ask me, like, well, when you say support, like, what does that look like for you?
Not like just like buying stuff or just, you know, like being materialistic. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have those real conversations so that you guys understand, because his understanding of what support means might not be my understanding of it. And so while he might come to shows and feel like I'm supporting you, I might be on the outside looking in like, yeah, no, I don't feel like you are. Right. You know? So I think it's very important to have those conversations.
So, like, basically be transparent with one another.
Yes.
Yeah, like all cards out on the table, pretty much. Now, I wanted to ask, so, like, do you guys ever catch yourself, like criticizing each other? And then, if so, like, how do you, you know, take that? Like, is it okay to criticize your partner?
Talent-wise, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean.
Okay, so for me, like, I don't, like, okay. The one thing that is great about our relationship is that nothing we say or do is, like, intentionally to hurt the other person. So let me just start there. So
it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I forgot we was in a relationship. Go ahead. Hypothetically, if we was in a relationship.
Let me stop.
Oh, well, I'm gonna let Vaughn take over and just answer the question. Anyway, so I think that if you go into it knowing that the person's not like intentionally trying to hurt your feelings, I'm not gonna say that it's all the time gonna be like easy peasy, because it's not. Like, there are some times where, you know, I might ask a question and I might not like what I hear. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you mean? You know what I mean? Like, I'm popping. You know, like, who are you to tell me? You know, like, that's me. Like, Jesus is working on me still. But, you know, sometimes, but understanding that whatever, you know, I ask him, whatever criticism he's giving me, it's not like to hurt my feelings, but just because he wants to see me be the best version of me. Now, I don't feel like I don't really say too much. I mean, unless I do, I really don't feel like I say anything to Vaughn about his talents. I mean,
no. Ashley is a great supporter. Like, she comes to, you know, pretty much every show that I do, and is right there, you know, front and center. Hey, you need something to drink? Hey, how you doing? Hey, if that girl try to push up against you one more time, I'm gonna beat her ass.
Now that's a lie. Let me tell you, that is a lie from the pit of hell. Because one thing I am not a jealous person. So I understand the business is business.
I remember when that one girl was like, "Oh no, it's okay, sweetie, I'm a lesbian."
Now that was so funny. But see, on that particular occasion, okay, now you got to tell the story, because now the people gonna be like, "What the heck?" But on that particular occasion, like, you know, when your man give you the look, kind of like, save me, it was like a look. And I was like, let me go over here and, like, you know, save him. But you can tell the story since you done brought it up.
Wait. So there was a girl.
Yeah. She came up to the stage, man. I was talking to a gentleman. He's a promoter. Yeah. And I was standing at the base of the stage. He's standing on the floor. And he's just, you know, complimenting me and talking to me. And then this rando just came up and just decided to insert herself into these men's conversation. Ooh. And so she just started talking. And I'm feeling like this is rude because I'm talking to this promoter. And for me, you know, a lot of times conversations are business, even if they're in a social environment. Mm-hmm. Right. You know what I mean? And to the naked eye, you might not necessarily understand that. And so she just kind of walked up and started interrupting, as certain pigmentally challenged people like to do, man. It's like they don't even see you talking to somebody, but they just walk up. No, this is just my experience. Sorry. But in my experience, sometimes it's usually the pigmentally challenged folk that want to.
Oh, so we gonna hit it twice now.
Right. Look, I'll be the Charlemagne. I'll be the Charlemagne of the group. I'll be the Charlemagne of the group. But it's usually them that come up and start talking without saying excuse me or without waiting their turn. And so she started interrupting. I was just like, hold on one second. I'm almost finished with my conversation with him. And then she took it personal. personal. Was like, oh, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you and your boyfriend. And I'm like, what? And so now she getting disrespectful because, you know what I'm saying, the pigmented one didn't want to like let her just interject herself into the conversation. And so after we got done speaking, because he walked away, he was like, man, I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole. So he walked off, and she started talking to me, and I just felt like it was still kind of disrespectful. So I looked over at my girl, and hypothetically, my girl walked from out the backstage area and was like, yes, can I help you? And she was
I didn't say that. I did not say that, because you know how these people thinking I'll be at your gigs. No, I just was like, and you are. I think that was very nice of me.
Oh, okay. Can I help you? And you are. Either way, she got the message. She was like, oh, no, I'm a lesbian. And
I said, I didn't ask that. I just wanted to know who you were. Like, You're telling on yourself.
Okay, I'm an Aquarius.
Right. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, man. So, but that's one of the things I will say as far as this relationship, that I have not had to deal with a lot of, jealousy issues. I mean, doing what I do, you cannot have a peaceful life if the person who you're attached to is operating from a place of jealousy and insecurity. Right. So, but as far as like doing business together, I'll say that in the past, I have resisted doing business with people that I'm super close to, whether it be a girlfriend, a family member. I usually try not to. And the reason for that for me is because of the accountability piece. Right. It's really, I feel like at the end of the day, if I had a difficult day doing my job, I run my own company. So if I had a difficult day running my company, or I got into it with somebody, maybe it was a venue owner, maybe it was a band member, maybe it was a client, whoever. When it comes to the accountability piece of it, I want to have that accountability piece with somebody who I'm not sleeping with, or with somebody who I don't have to wonder if it's going to be awkward at Thanksgiving when we see each other. You know what I'm saying? I like to keep business and personal separate. That way, when I get home, I can vent to my baby about, how somebody who was a part of the business messed something up and how it upset me. And I don't have to take it out on them because I have somebody to go home and vent to. But if the person that I'm with is the person who is the culprit, you know what I'm saying? Let's say they missed a major detail to somebody's wedding.
Or they were late somewhere.
Yeah, like for instance, Ashley is really great, man. I'm talking about when it comes down to, business and talent, quite frankly. But in the business world, she's kind of like known. Some people have nicknamed her a pit bull because she gets it done, bro. Whatever you need to get done in the business world, Ashley gonna get it done. So, some people probably would think like it would be perfect, like okay, she could come in and she could actually run your business, right?
Right.
And obviously she can. She's super qualified. She can do it. It's not a matter of can she do it. Is that the best idea for our relationship?
And is that what you want?
Well, I mean, for me, I would absolutely want that.
Right.
But as far as our relationship, I don't ever want to put the relationship in a position to go awry. And I feel like when you're working in business together, let's just say she missed a key detail to a wedding. Not saying that she ever would. She's great at her job. But I'm just saying it happens.
Yeah.
When it comes time to hold somebody accountable, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to take that home. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I think that some of those arguments and how they're handled, you got to know, like, is my partner able to be held accountable by me? Yeah. Is my partner going to take it personal when I go off? Because look, whoever I work with, if what you did cost me a client, I got to be able to, I'm not going to disrespect you, but I got to be able to let you know, like, yo, man, you really messed that up. Now my client, and I'm frustrated. I have to be able to vent that to somebody. That's supposed to be the person I'm with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because if I don't express it to the person I'm with, now I'm talking behind your back.
Because the funny thing is like when you're in a relationship, you're like the number one biggest thing is like you have to make the other person happy, And it's like if you're holding them accountable, at that point, that's not your job to make them happy. It's to make them like understand, hey, you messed up,
Exactly. So if you with somebody, if you are in a relationship and you're with somebody where the accountability piece of it comes easy for both parties, like where you both can like accept accountability for the things that you've done wrong without taking it personal, then y'all might be able to work well together, you know, in business. But again, I just think that is a factor. And for me personally, I already don't do so great with having to hold people accountable. I don't like to have to do it. But as a boss or as a, you know what I'm saying? No, I just said it like I said it. As a boss, that's part of the job. Yeah. Is to hold people accountable for their responsibilities. Right. And when it gets to the point where you can't do that without, you know, having to tiptoe and stuff, you know, it just complicates things. I feel like relationships come with enough of their own complications than adding and compounding that with the business piece. So you got to really know who you're doing that with and whether, you know, their involvement in your business is worth the relationship potentially. Yeah. Not necessarily, but potentially.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I agree, but then I feel like I see it from a different standpoint too, because the way that I envision, you know what I'm saying, like my future, like if I get married one day and have children, like I want to be able to be like, I just envision like this power couple type of thing. Like I want us to have businesses and I want our children to see like mom and dad have businesses, and one day when I grow up I can have my own business and things like that. So
you see it as a Jay-Z, Beyonce, where you guys have separate businesses, not like one together?
Well, I think it's great to have businesses, period. So if I have a business that I started on my own, and then you have your own business that, you know, sometimes I help you maybe with your business, and then we start businesses of our own too. Like that's how I view like relationships, and you know, because Tina Turner said it best, what's love got to do with it? I mean, it's great to be like, oh, you give me butterflies and I love you, but like what money are we making? What businesses are we establishing? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just let's get butterflies and cuddle all day. I don't got time. Like I'm trying to do things in my future. Right. So like that's how I see, I feel like that should be a part of your relationship. How are y'all building together? Like how are y'all helping each other grow? You know, like not just from a love standpoint, but like from a financial standpoint too, to build a foundation for your future. Like that's how I see it.
Yeah. So do y'all think it's possible to do business together after a breakup?
I do. I think that if you have two mature individuals that recognize, like, okay, this is our relationship and this is our business, you know what I mean? Yeah. Now, I will say it probably will depend on why y'all broke up. Like, you might not be able to do business together if one cheated on the other person. You might not want to see that person in the business world every day after that. It's like, I hate your guts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess it would depend on why you broke up. If it was just like a situation where y'all been together for years and maybe you going in this direction and this person's going in that direction, and it's like, okay, well, we can't come to a common theme together in our relationship, so it's probably best for us just to go our separate ways, but we can still do business together, then cool. Like, you know, because sometimes you break up with people and you don't hate their guts. Like, you can still remain friends, like, you know. So I think that it is feasible, but I mean, if you out here just cheating and being stupid, then it's probably not going to be feasible to hold on to the business piece of it, because you really messed up in the relationship piece.
Right. Yeah. See, I think it all depends on the person, honestly, because like people handle things differently, and like no matter what you go through, if you have someone that's just willing to forgive and forget, then that's what's gonna happen, you know. Mm-hmm. But if you have someone that's where their cutoff game is like 110%, you know, then even if
it's funny to me.
Even if it was like something small, you know, it didn't even have to even be cheating. Even if it was like, oh, you just annoyed me, so like let's break up. Your breath
stank. I'm done.
Right. So like that may not go over so well with continuing the business, because it's like, think about it, like that's kind of petty. Like, you broke up with me because of that. Why do I want to continue doing business with you? You know.
But see, most people should have never went into business in the first place, and you should know prior to that that you're with a petty person. Now, you know, King Jesus is still delivering me. I got some petty ways. I ain't gonna lie.
You do.
You know, not more than you though, because you were more petty.
No, I'm just asking.
And that was Exhibit A right there. You being like, you do. He pettier than I am.
Oh,
you know
my
what I'm saying?
goodness.
But when it comes time to be serious and do business and stuff, like, we're not petty. You know, but
hypothetically speaking.
you know. But seriously though, in all seriousness, like you should know before you decide to go into business with that person that they're petty, and you probably should not make a decision to go into business with somebody that is petty boots. Like I'm not, gonna go into business with somebody that's super petty.
Yeah,
probably not even gonna be in a relationship with you anymore if you just petty like that. It's like, why am I with you?
So the question, how do you handle the business aspect if there's an infidelity in the relationship? Ooh.
and that takes me back to my original.
You separate the two.
That's what I was about to say. That takes me back to the whole, just let business be business,
right?
And let personal be personal. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of power couples out there who's not doing the same business as each other.
Yeah.
And it allows you to have your own life. Like, you know what I'm saying? It allows you to have your own life within y'all's life together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what I'm working on. This is what you're working on.
And you're able to share it.
Exactly.
Right.
You have your own passions and your own things. I feel like it's important to still have some semblance of who you are. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean lose yourself. Right. You know what I'm saying? You have to you still have to be who you are, because if you lose who you are in that relationship, that means that if the relationship ends, that means who you are is dissolved in it. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta still have something that is like still yours.
Right.
And I feel like that's one of the ways to, just be able to have something to talk about where you're not necessarily aiming at one another for accountability or relying on each other for business strategies or, you know what I'm saying? And it works for some people, but I know, for me, I'm the type that's more like, I'm willing to help you with yours if you ask me to. Like, hey, Vaughn, can you support me with this? Or can you help me in that way? Or whatever the case might be. And I'm more willing to do that than to just merge businesses together. And now our entire livelihood is dependent on how well we work together, knowing that, one day we might be like, rah, 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 and now we don't feel like working together. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm leaving and I'm taking my ball.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned about losing yourself, and just from a woman's perspective, and I'll be very transparent going back to our relationship, but I think as women, we're naturally nurturers and we're naturally supportive. So like for me, being in a relationship, it's like I want to support my man. You know what I'm saying? That's just who I am as a person. And I won't say that I feel like I've ever fully lost myself in my relationship with Vaughn, but I will say there was a moment where I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm coming to all your gigs, and like maybe I need to be investing some of this time in myself and my craft. Because,
where's my stuff?
Right, because I have my own gifts and talents, and I need to be, investing in me too. So, I caught that, and it's okay. I think it's to be understood from a woman's perspective. It's okay to support your man. And even from a man's perspective, it's okay to support your woman, but you need to make sure that you don't lose sight of who you are and the dreams and goals that you have, because those don't stop just because you're in a relationship with someone else now and you want to be supportive to that person. By all means, be supportive, but continue working on yourself and better yourself. Like, you have to have that balance. And aside from working on yourself, whatever you were doing prior to your relationship, you need to continue to do. And what I mean by that, I don't mean like if you was dating a whole bunch of dudes or women, keep doing that. Nah, that's dead. Like Anthony would say, you in a relationship, we ain't doing that. Right. But I'm just saying, like, if you had your girls' nights once a week and that's what you were doing, prior to being in a relationship, continue to do that when you're in your relationship. Like, continue to cultivate the friendship with your girls or your homeboys or whatever. Have those nights to hang out and hone in on your skills. If you had a night where it was like, hey, this the night that I'm going to brush up on my guitar skills, or I'm going to learn a new monologue or whatever, like, you continue to do that. You don't lose those things because you get into a relationship now.
Right. So, I have a question for Ashley, because I feel like this is something, the way you answer this could probably help, like, a lot of people in general, but because earlier, Anthony touched on the whole jealousy aspect. Yeah. And we touched on it from the perspective of, jealousy of maybe one person advancing in their career and the other one maybe not, or whatever the case might be. But what about the aspect of jealousy as far as, somebody, okay, your man is sitting up doing his work, all hours of the morning and sometimes late into the night. And, you see that text message pop in or you see that message come through, right? Okay. So how do you navigate that part of it when you have, because a lot of entrepreneurs can identify with this. Entrepreneurs know that you could be working from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. And especially, in the artist realm, look, a lot of times we don't get home from gigs until, 2, 3 in the morning anyway.
And from just a creative standpoint, sometimes we not going to bed. So
until, right, at all.
Those middle of the night hours are like prime hours for ideas to flourish. You don't hear any traffic outside. You don't hear no noise in the house. And it's just, I don't know, it's something about that time that a lot of us get up in the middle of the night and we might be writing down, making some notes or writing down an idea or whatever the case might be. But there might be, some people in relationships who struggle with their entrepreneur spouse or their entrepreneur significant other who's, taking messages from all kinds of people. I'm gonna tell you, I get flirted with all the time, and also am doing business all the time. And so, how do you navigate that, like internally and even in the expression of your relationship? How do you not allow certain negative thoughts to creep in?
Well, I think like off the top, like what's really healthy, going back to what I said earlier, is having a conversation at the beginning, right? So when you start courting somebody or you start dating someone, those conversations need to be had. It's a little different, I feel like, with us because we're in the same industry. But I feel like you did it with me. Like, you told me, like, just let you know, like, it's times where my phone go off all hours of the night, especially after gigs. People might be tagging me on something or a video they took or whatever, And, Vaughn's phone do be going off all hours. I mean, all hours of the night. And I appreciated him, like, having that conversation with me, to say, hey, here's a forewarning. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't really need it because I'm a little different. Like, I'm just not a jealous person because, there's times in the shows that I do from a musical standpoint where I have to kiss other people. So it's like, my mind doesn't work like that. Like, why your phone keep going off at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning? And I also feel like that's where the trust comes into play. Like, he hasn't done anything to make me question, like, why his phone is going off. You know what I'm saying? So there's a trust factor there. And I feel like if you're constantly questioning that piece of it, especially when you're talking about being in a relationship with somebody that's an entrepreneur, then you might want to question your relationship or the other piece of it. Like, I never feel the urge to go through Vaughn's phone when it goes off. Like, I just don't, you know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
a big one.
It is. Like, I don't feel the, like, oh, the iPad got all of the stuff popping up. You know what I mean? I never feel like, let me go on here and see what's, because I feel like the moment that I feel that I have to go through his phone or go through his iPad and see what messages are being sent is the moment that I need to discontinue the relationship because there is no trust. Right. Point blank, period. So I think that's the biggest thing is, I think, communication, being honest. But the thing is, even after you communicate, sometimes you may still deal with somebody that's going to go through your phone and go through because maybe they have some past issues that they haven't healed from their last relationship where they got cheated on or lied to. And now that's not a you problem. Like, that's something that they need to go get some healing and help for because it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
So that's what I say.
Cool. Well, it looks like we coming up on 36 minutes in, so it looks like we probably going to have to start transitioning to some calls pretty soon, huh?
Yeah, get our interviewees in here. Why don't we get us some professional opinions? People who do this for a living. Who basically basically live this every day.
For sure, I think that's a great idea.
Who we got coming in today?
We'll jump right into it right now. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. So we spent quite a bit of time just giving our take on business and relationships. So I think it'll be fitting to have an interview with a couple that is currently married and currently does business together while raising children. Okay. So a couple of my friends, when I spent some time at the University of Michigan, Nancy Young and Brian Young.
Ooh, go blue.
Yes, go blue. They are a married couple that lives in Michigan. And Nancy owns her own skin bar or spa, if you will, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, called dbts Skin Bar. And Brian, her husband, owns his own personal fitness training gym called Be Young, Be Fit. So in addition to their companies that they currently are the founders and owners of, they also have created a property development and wellness retreat company. And essentially what they do is purchase properties and then they renovate and design them and create a wellness environment for their short-term rentals. So I want to just kind of get them on the phone so we can just kind of get their takes on business and relationships.
Yeah, because they sound legit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right. How are you guys?
We are doing good. How are you?
Good. We're doing well. Can't complain. So before we just kind of jump right into the questions portion, I'm just going to introduce you to, so it's myself, and then we also have Anthony and Vaughn. They're also hosts of the podcast. So everybody meet Nancy and Brian.
Hey, how you guys doing? So I'm Anthony.
Yes, and I am Vaughn. Very nice to meet you two.
Nice to meet you.
Cool. So I have spoken you guys up very highly.
A lot.
to everyone. So when we first came up with the idea to do this specific topic about business and relationships, literally you guys were the first ones I thought of because I didn't really want to interview just anybody who is a couple and, do business together, but I really wanted to interview a couple that just represents excellency to me, in my opinion, and who are tremendously successful. And I think the caveat to you guys as well is that not only are you guys married and do business together, but you guys also have children. So just trying to understand what it's like to work with your spouse while raising a family as well. So we'll all just kind of take turns asking questions, and then we'll just go from there. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So first question for you guys. Tell us, what are the pros and cons to being in business with your spouse?
So just to clarify, I got to give you a little backstory. I know you know about me and Nancy, but we've experienced both working separately and working in the same space. So, for years we worked in the same space, and there was definitely pros and cons, and I'll answer that question. But then more recently, we've been working separately in different spaces. But obviously, we've both been self-employed for the last 14 years, so that's been the one common theme throughout our whole relationship. So I would say some of the pros to working together. First and foremost, like whenever you go into business with anyone, it's the biggest thing is trust. You need to be able to trust whoever you're going into business with. And if you can't trust your partner, your wife, your spouse, your partner, whoever, who else are you going to trust? So I feel like, in terms of like, even like things like intellectual property, like when I have ideas or Nancy has ideas, we don't have to think twice about, oh, maybe I should get this in writing or get a contract before I share this. So we literally are just constantly brainstorming, bouncing ideas off of each other, sharing resources. If I get a hookup, the first person I tell is Nancy. I'm like, hey, I got a hookup on DTE, or I got a hookup on this vendor, or this, So those are definitely like initially what I think some of the pros are.
Also, too, like, as a business owner, there's lots and lots of hours that you're having to work and having to grind. And I personally feel like if I was with someone married to someone who say worked 9 to 5, they might not understand me constantly being on my laptop, or having to answer, an email right away, having to before we left the house to go grocery shopping today, I had to check online to see what orders I had so I could pick up the product and bring it back home so I could get it ready to ship. That might be annoying to someone who isn't a business owner and doesn't understand that the grind never stops. Like, you constantly have to be, on, like, to a certain extent. Obviously there's ebb and flows, but someone who, goes to work at 9 and then they punch out at 5, they might be like, dang, why are you always on your cell phone? Why are you always, having to answer that email right now? They're not going to understand that. So I think that's a big pro.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of cons, we were talking about this in the car. I actually don't have any cons, but Brian has cons. I was like, I don't have any cons, but because when we used to work, together in the same space, so how it was when you walked in, it would kind of go to the right and the left, and my spa was on the right, and Brian's personal training studio was on the left, and then the reception was right in front. I actually enjoyed those times because we used to get lunch together all the time. If somebody was being annoying, like, he would be the first person I would tell. Like, we would sit up at the reception desk and be like, let me tell you about this crazy person, or a good experience that we had that day. So I kind of miss that because we don't really get, to go to lunch together anymore now. Not without the kids anyway. So that, I don't really have any cons, but I'll pass it back to him because he said he had a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of two cons that I've just had to adjust over the years. They're not as relevant now because we've been doing this for so long. But number one is just financially. As a self-employed person, it's very different than a person that has a 9-to-5 or a set salary. Everything down to your health insurance, down to your monthly income. It's all very variable, and it can change month to month, week to week, and it's just not as secure as someone that, say, has a salary position and they work 9 to 5. So I think that's one of the cons, if you want to call it a con, is just when you have two self-employed people, you can't really rely, you don't have that same safety net that if like, for example, if Nancy still worked at the hospital when we first were dating, she was working at the U of M hospital. If she still worked at the hospital, she'd have full benefits, she'd have a salary. So my ebbs and flows wouldn't be as scary because I'd be able to lean on her. But when you have two self-employed people, sometimes both of you guys are going through it at the same time financially, and it's like, shit, what are we going to do? So
right.
And that's what I mentioned. It's not as big of a problem now because we've been doing it so long. We diversify and we make sure that we're making money through different streams of revenue, so that if our businesses are on a down week or a down month, we have other forms of income. So those are just the two cons that I've experienced, again, over 14 years. But if if you're in it for the long haul, you figure a way through it. And ultimately, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, me and Nancy couldn't even imagine having like real jobs. Working for people. I couldn't even imagine what that would feel like.
So would you say, this is Vaughn, and I just wanted to ask, so would you say that make you guys kind of like hustle harder in those moments where maybe both of you weren't necessarily bringing in what you were accustomed to? Do you feel like that made you like hustle harder, or did you sometimes like go at each other in those moments?
Well, so a little bit of both. I mean, definitely, I like to use the word, or I like to use the term, like, work smarter, not harder. So like we have become way more strategic in these years, just going through different, like Brian was saying, ebbs and flows. We've become very strategic. So we've gotten really good at predicting, what a month is going to look like, and even just like the type of promos that we run, so that maybe we can increase that revenue for that month. But yeah, I mean, we've been married we'll celebrate 10 years this December. Thank you. And we have 3 children now, so things get a lot more real. Like, when we started our companies, I was 23. I was 23. Brian was 25. So it was, it was just us. It was a little bit different. We could work 12-hour days and be at our studio for like, for the entire day, and just try to come up with different ideas. But now we have to be way more strategic. So, I mean, obviously in 10 years of marriage, we have gotten into arguments, but we also have a therapist who helps us kind of work through with our communication. And we're, as long as we know we're both in this together, that I feel like is the key. Is like both people have to think like, we're in this together. It doesn't matter. We're gonna figure a way out, and come up together.
See, and the one thing I like that you said was you guys have a therapist, and a lot of couples, they don't admit that because they feel like it's a weakness. But for you guys, it's almost like it's a strength. It's like admitting, like, hey, we have problems, but we go to someone so we can work through it, so that we can stay together and we can stay stronger together.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, exactly.
Like something will happen and I'll be like, "Ooh, I'm about to wait till I tell Joya." Like,
I mean, therapy for us. I mean, we both are very. I guess it's part of our humility in terms of that. But I mean, we both work in industries where, like for example, I'm in the fitness industry, and I always tell people I don't do the work for you. I'm just a guide. I'm just helping you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm preparing the right exercises for you, or I'm making sure that your schedule is right. But I'm not doing the exercises for you. So like I think of therapy like that. Like this, our therapist, and she's great. I've had a couple in my lifetime, but this one, she's great in just she's just a mediator, really. She's just listening to both of us and helping us communicate, and really she's helping us deal with our own problems, because I think that's the biggest thing with any relationship is you just get so emotional and you get so wrapped into your own feelings that it's hard to communicate and listen. And so like that's the biggest thing that she does is she'll say, do you hear Nancy saying this? And I'm like, I heard that, but that's not what I really was listening to, you know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely not something that we're embarrassed about. I was in therapy as a child. My mom and dad have always been in therapy, so I I think
for your brain.
it's definitely part of our wellness plan, and we really promote that to other people too, to go to therapy. I tell my clients all the time, you should see a therapist.
Especially business owners. I mean, especially business owners need that, need that outlet.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to go back to when we were talking about I think Vaughn, you asked the question, like being in business together, for me it really lights a fire for me personally as a husband and as a father, to never rest on my laurels. Like my story is a little different than Nancy. I've never had a real job. I mean, I had some little part-time jobs in high school, and I had a like an internship in college, but they were never like real grown-up jobs. As soon as I graduated college, I pretty much started my business right after that. So I've never really known any different, other than I've never known a different feeling than, oh, I need money for XYZ, so I'm going to go out there and get it, versus like expecting someone to give it to me, which is a really relevant point right now, because we're all locked down and people can't go to work and they're not getting paid and they're not doing this. And it's funny because me and Nancy are like, man, we were born for this. Like, this ain't nothing new for us. We're just
Right.
in business, and like we're not waiting for the stimulus check. We still haven't received any money from the government. We've applied for actually like 8 business loans between the two of us. I haven't received a single dollar for that. But the thing is, we're not really waiting for it either. If it comes, great. If not, we're just doing the same thing we always do.
Coming up with new strategies, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
I hear you.
Good. Okay. So, next question. How do you separate the business conversations from the relationship conversations when accountability is involved?
Ooh. Well, let's see. How do we do that?
Well, first, like I said, me and Nancy, because we own our own businesses, the accountability is only like what we're bringing into the family. It's not like 2 people that may work in the same exact business. Then I could see us having maybe more potential issues. I know there's some friends of ours that work in the same business, and I could see that being like, well, I want to do this with the business, I want to do this with the business, and you kind of butt heads. But for me and Nancy, like when she wants to do something with SkinBar, I'm more of a sounding board for her. I'm more of a devil's advocate for her. I'm more of so it's not as much like, even if I disagree, ultimately it's her business and she can do what she wants. The only thing that I might say is, that might not be good for the family and that might not make as much money, or that, and the same thing with me. So we really don't get into too many arguments with decisions on the business. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, and we even have, so we have a wellness retreat company that we run in the Bahamas. It's called Bean Inc. And so with that, that's actually both of him and I are like 50-50 partners, or I like to call it 100 partners. So even with during that journey, I mean, that was crazy. Like we bought a property in the Bahamas. We had to get all the furniture, ship it there through freight. We had to go to Florida to buy it, ship it through freight, set it all up, and set. It really did test our relationship. But I think one thing that's really important if you're going to work in the same industry is before you start is each person needs to say what their strength is and their level of involvement that they want to have with it. Like Brian, when we started that, then he was like, I'm really busy transitioning beyond be fit, so I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot with the booking aspect. And I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I know that. I'll take the reins on that. And that's how it's been. So I think it's really important for partners to be very transparent with each other. So that way, when you're 6 months down the road, one person's not saying like, well, you're not even doing anything. You're not doing nothing, It's important to have that conversation when you start. So that way that person has their accountability and the other person has, whatever their level of accountability is going to be.
And I'll piggyback off of that just a little bit more. That again, I don't look at that as unique to like a husband-wife partnership. I look at that with any business partnership. You need specific job duties, very detailed job duties. You need to know who's delegating what to who. And like Nancy said, it's based on your strengths. So like, I mean, I wouldn't. Nancy really is my business partner. She's my best friend. She's my wife, and she's the mother of my children. These are all like separate roles, and I think it's fine to identify that. I think people try to get a little too cute when they're like, oh, it's all one thing. And it's like, no, it's not. When we're having a business decision, I might talk to her and she might talk to me a little differently than you would loving husband or wife. Like I might be like, hey, that's some bullshit, Children. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
You're right. This is bullshit.
I'm saying, like, if we're around kids and I'm talking to the mother of my children, I'm not gonna say it like that.
Come on, I love that. I love that you guys have a way to separate the conversation when you're having a business discussion, and it's like, hey, any other business partner, except of course there's that extra element of love, but to be able to be able to put on the work hat versus the marriage and parents hat. I think that's an awesome thing you guys have going on.
Thank you. And I think at the end of the day, I think it's really important to not take yourself too seriously. And both Brian and I, like, even something really serious, like one of us can make a joke about it. Because I think, the fun really stops when you start taking yourself way too seriously. And that's in relationships.
Wow. Okay. Can you give an example of that?
Of taking yourself too seriously? Well, not being able to joke. So, like, let me think. I mean, we have tons of examples. Okay, so when we were doing the project in the Bahamas, it was crazy, like with having to wrap everything up, put it on the get it to the freight company and then have them ship it. And when it got there, there was a lot of things that were broken. And I started getting like real, like, they broke all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And, Brian just kind of brought me down to it. And he was like, we literally just shipped like 1,000 pieces. And there's like 4 things that are broken. You need to get it together. And I can't remember, he made a joke about it, but it made me laugh. And I was just like, well, you're right. Like the bigger picture is we literally just bought a property in a different country in our 20s, or we're in our early 30s. We started a business in a whole different country. Like, why are you taking yourself so seriously about some vases that broke in transit from Florida to the Bahamas? So, that's what I mean. It's like I had to be able to understand the place. He was coming from a good place. He wasn't trying to like make fun of me because I was all upset about these bases. So that's what I mean by taking yourself too seriously. You have to understand that your partner has your best intentions in mind, so you have to be able to laugh with each other. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, so how do you guys keep business issues between you from spilling over into your relationships?
Well, I think for us, because we're business owners, truthfully, I mean, I don't know if Ryan will agree with this, but I think our business and our family and our relationship will kind of overlap at certain times. I think that that's normal, because anytime you're a small business owner, your business is almost like your baby. I mean, my dbts SkinBar was my first baby, so I take it very seriously. I'm very prideful about it, and I think he would say the same thing about Beyond Be Fit. But the important thing, I think, is just to to be able to, in that conversation, if the business aspect is not relevant, then why are we talking about it? Like, let's stay on the topic. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's natural to, like, say if there's a concern about money, I think that it's natural to have the business part overlap into your personal relationship, because you guys are a partnership. So it's like, okay, something isn't happening with the business and this is how it's affecting our relationship. But again, it's about being able to communicate that. If it's relevant, then yes, you talk about it. If it's not, then you keep it on the back burner.
Yeah, okay. I'll piggyback off of that. I think with anything, business is ever changing, especially being self-employed. It literally can change day to day. And with anything that's ever changing, it's really just about communication, like Nancy said. So, I mean, when we were younger, even before we got married, there was almost no line between business time and personal time. Like, in terms of, we could be, not to give you TMI, but we could be laying in the bed late at night and talking about our pillow talk is business talk, literally we talk about it at every meal. And like, because whenever inspiration came or whenever that came. Now, when we got married, we definitely had conversations about drawing a line certain times, because it would get to the point where it was like, it was just too much. If you never turn it off, it could consume you. And then I think even another transition was having kids, because having kids just takes all your time, like, literally. So like, I think now with 3 kids and the lives that we lead now, we've drawn some lines. Like, for example, at dinner, when we sit down with the girls at the dinner table, we don't talk about business for the most part. We're not on our phones. But 10 years ago, we would have both been on our laptops eating dinner, talking about what we're doing, so.
Awesome. Okay, well, what tips would you suggest to couples who are thinking of going into business together?
I think we covered it a little bit earlier, but I think the main thing is having good communication with each other, being able to be transparent, and then also being able to identify what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. So then that way, that person can have what their assignment is, and then the wife can have her assignment, and the husband can have his assignment, and then that way you're not bumping heads. So, and then like Brian was saying, I think he was talking about trust is really important. Understanding that your partner is going to have your best interest in mind. So, that all comes back to communication.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm actually going to look at it on the other side first. Like Nancy's kind of answering from a business standpoint, the things that you need to set up. I think before any couple go into business together, they need to really evaluate their relationship first. Because any issues, no matter how small, that you have in a personal relationship are going to be magnified when you go into business. They always say that the top 3 arguments are sex, money, and religion. Sex, money, and kids. Well, when you go into business, all those things are going to be magnified way more. Money's going to be way more important. Kids are going to be way more important. I don't know if sex is, but I mean, just in terms of, I could swap out sex for just your intimacy. That could be a big issue. So for me, and Nancy always says this, she used to tell people, before you're going to get married, you should make sure that your relationship is pretty tight. Yeah. And I think of going into business together as a marriage. So it's like a second marriage. So I would say that people really need to evaluate whether it's seeing a therapist or just being real with themselves. Like, I think one of me and Nancy's strongest attributes, if I look back, is just we don't lie to ourselves first. Because the worst lies that you tell are the lies you tell yourself. So like, you could say, "Oh, I'm a good boyfriend," or "I'm a good husband," but like, she's got issues with something and you're not addressing. So you're lying to yourself. So then you go into business, and guess what? Shit gets real, and then it magnifies, and then before you know it, I've seen it before. People will say, "Well, we're getting a divorce and it all went down because we went into business together. It's like, no, you had issues before that, and it just made it worse, and they called attention to it more.
Yeah.
Well, those are really, really good tips. So we really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us and just taking time out of your busy day to just really answer these questions. I think these are all some great, great points. Did you guys have anything else?
Well, no, I definitely want to shout you guys out and what your businesses are and everything. Or if you guys would want to do it, like let everyone know what you guys got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. Because we both have online things that are going on right now. That would be really helpful if you shouted it out, like Brian's YouTube page, and you just shouted out my website. You want me to do it now, or do you want me to send it in a text?
Well, either way, because I have it, so I can shout you out right now.
Yeah, but I mean, if you guys want to, go like take like 2 minutes and just, let everyone know what it is that you guys got going on, or just shout out yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, I own a spa in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I deal mainly with medical grade skin issues. But because of the shutdown, I have transitioned pretty much completely to online now because I also have skincare products. So you can find us on our website at www.dbtsskinbar.com. And then our products are also available on Macy's.com as well. And so our products are natural based. They're infused with both organic and pharmaceutical grade ingredients. And so our idea is that all of our products have some sort of intent behind it. So no frou-frou. If you have an issue, we have products that will address those issues. So let me hand it to Brian.
Thanks. So I've definitely pivoted my business even more so than Nancy. She's smarter than me. She had the retail thing set up way before COVID happened. So it was kind of a more of a seamless transition for her. For me, I was mainly in the gym training people and in the gym doing group fitness classes. So obviously all that has came to a stop now, going on 2 months. So the pivot for me is, and like a lot of trainers, is I'm doing Zoom training right now. So we're doing virtual training. I have one-on-one options as well as group options. And with that, all my packages are still the same that they were before. And anyone can read about my personal training packages on beyoungbefit.com. And it's just spelled BYOUNGBFIT.com. And then, I mean, I'm really pushing a new project, which is my YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, there's just tons of free fitness advice, workout ideas, nutritional advice, just things that I've been doing for years and years, and I've decided to put it into a catalog. Right now, I think we have like 16 or 18 videos up, and I'm posting 1 to 2 every week, so we'll have a lot of content up there. And that's, again, just Be Young, Be Fit on YouTube. I think that's it.
And I just forgot to add, for anyone who orders on SkinBar website, if you use code RONA, RONA, at checkout, you will get free shipping on any orders over $50.
There you go.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Now, y'all might really want to take advantage of that code that Nancy just gave y'all, because just a personal testimony, I have purchased and used some of Nancy's products, and they are the bomb. So make use of that code. Thank y'all so much. We really, really appreciate you guys. We appreciate your time and the tips that you gave us about business and relationships. And I think we're going to take those tips as well. Like, I'm getting me a therapist. I don't know about
y'all. I want they therapists. They sound like they like that person.
I want the one that they
have, right?
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate you having us. We're going to finish enjoying our margaritas while our nanny is here for 30 more minutes.
I love it. I love it. Enjoy it. All right, y'all. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you again, Nancy and Brian. As you guys heard, make sure you check them out on their personal social media pages and also their business social media pages. I'll repeat them just in case you guys may have missed them. But make sure to check out Nancy Young and Brian Young on Facebook, and also check out their businesses as well on IG, dbtsskinbar, and Be Young, Be Fit _A2. That is the capital letter B, and then the capital letter YOUNGB, just the letter, fit _A2 on Instagram. And then also make sure you guys check out Macy's.com, because Nancy's products are also currently being sold on Macy's.com.
There you go. And, even though Ashley read that lovely, I don't know if that's a word.
Lovely.
There we go.
That's definitely new.
The links will definitely be also in the description on the YouTube version of this, guys. So you guys can go down below and click it and follow the links and check out their products. So, yeah, do we want to move on to our next guest?
Yes, absolutely. So the next guest we're going to talk to is Collete Watson and Brian Watson of Black River.
We got another Brian.
Listen, now let me tell y'all something.
They're two of my favorite people right there.
Yeah, okay. They are that absolute deal, and I believe they're going to give us some amazing insight into their business. So again, just so you guys know, the name of their company is Black River Life Media. So let's get them on the phone right now and get some conversation going about business and relationships.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So we are now joined by Brian and Collete Watson, and they are the founders of Black River Life Media. Collete Watson is also known as, now Collete, you're Coco of Coco and Muse, correct? Of Venus Clapback?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, Coco.
Collete is the Coco of Muse and Coco of Venus Clapback. We also, if you guys were tuned into the live stream we had for the Better Together Phoenix Presents a Blaze Noir, you guys were also able to see a commercial for Venus Clapback and what they do. I've had the just astounding pleasure of being a part of one of their shows to tell my story of why I fell in love with a Black woman. So if you are not plugged into Black River Life Media and Venus Clapback, please make sure to follow them on social media. So we want to just hop right in with you guys. When we kind of came together and came up with the topic of business and relationships, of course, you guys were a couple that we automatically thought of, because you guys are like, if you look up Black love in the dictionary, you guys know you are the epitome of that. And so we really want, when I tell you, Collete and Brian are like the epitome of Black love, all right. And, Black excellency and everything. Just everything Black girl and Black man magic you can think of is Brian and Collete. So we really thank you, first and foremost, for taking the time to really talk to us. And so we just want to shoot you guys a couple of questions, because, a lot of people have questions about, can I do business with the person that I'm in relationship with? And if I can do business, how do I go about doing business? So we just want to ask you a few questions and get some tips from you guys and your experiences in working together.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And thank you for that beautiful introduction.
I know, right?
All facts.
So we're going to start with the first question, and we want to know from you guys, what are the pros and cons to being in business with your spouse?
You want to take that one, Brian?
Yeah. So I think one of the pros and cons of, being in business with your spouse is that, work is a part of life, and sometimes the timing may not be right for your partner at the time you're ready to work, and you have to kind of know when to pull back, because you might be like full steam ahead and they may not be ready to, take on whatever it is that you're trying to go full steam ahead. So you have to be patient. And I think you also have to be kind of tempered in terms of how aggressive you go with whatever idea that you have and what you're trying to pursue, and kind of get a feel for whether or not your partner is as enthusiastic about it, because, it's a joint venture, it's a partnership. So, you want to make sure you get that buy-in.
And I guess I would just add that I think a pro of it is this is the person you have picked, to spend your life with. If they're your spouse, right? And so obviously you have a lot in common and a lot of things that you enjoy about them. And so, work takes up so much of your time in life. It's really beautiful to be able to spend your work time with a spouse, a person that you love and have so much in common with, as opposed to, kind of out in the world, these rascals in the street, you don't know if you're going to be on the same page or not. And so it's a little bit of a boost to be able to say, all right, I know we at least see eye to eye on enough on enough things that we felt like we could be partners in love. So, you build on those things to be partners in the business.
I like that. I like the idea that it's a build up. First of all, hey y'all, how y'all doing? This is Vaughn Willis. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's up, Vaughn?
Vaughn Willis.
What's up? Mr. Sunday Fun Day.
My man. No, I really like what Collette just said there as far as, the building of the love foundation and allowing that to be the foundation and the building blocks for that next step as far as building into the business. So what about for you guys, like on a personal level, how did you transition from the building of the love to the building of the business? Or was it the other way around? Did you guys start off doing business together and then fell in love? Like, kind of talk to us about that.
Well, it's been a little bit of a mixture from the get-go. Would you say so, Brian?
I would agree. I think, just to chime in really quickly, so I think for us, at least from my perspective, it's been about enjoying what we do, right? And I think for any business, first and foremost, you have to enjoy what you do, right? If you're going to sustain it and if you're going to be successful at it. And I think the two things that, Collette and I both really enjoy is being creative and doing things that we know really center the Black community and just really those things that we know that we see that are missing. Yeah. We try to fill that void.
And I think that, we saw really early on that we both enjoyed those things. So, to speak to how it all came together, I was actually booked to sing at a show up in New Jersey, and Brian was good friends with the promoter, and so he happened to be at the show, and that's how we met. And then that same promoter invited me to do another show, and Brian was the host that night because Brian was really well known on the circuit there for his spoken word poetry. So we were performing in the same gig and kind of realized that we both had this love of art. And so, fast forward a couple of years down the line, we start dating. And all along, he's seeing me put out albums. I'm seeing him do poetry and acting and producing indie films. So, he even invited me to audition for one of the films. I think he was trying to get at me.
She didn't come to the audition, so, I mean, that's another story.
Let me stop. But quite seriously, we saw each other's creative journeys. So once we got married, it just made sense to combine the things we were already doing, plus kind of grow together, because I was always curious about filmmaking. And so now together we've gotten even more deep into that while continuing, with our previous art. So it didn't really start on any given day. It was just kind of something that was always being written, I think, from the beginning.
Sound like that. Stu been sitting in the crock pot for a little while before everything got ready, huh?
Yep. Under the slow cooker. That's right. So all the herbs and spices come together the right way. Can't rush this.
Yes, sir.
Nice. So I guess my next question is, would you recommend couples go into business together if they work in the same industry already?
You know what? I like to tell people that every relationship is its own little culture. It's like its own little community. And it has worked. It is working beautifully for Brian and I, but I think I would share the piece of advice that my mom used to always share with me, which was know your people. In this case, know your person. And if the culture of your relationship is one where you're able to kind of put ego aside when it comes to those professional pursuits, then yeah, maybe, because it can be really beautiful. You're keeping it in the family as it grows. You know what you're leaving to your next generation. It makes the whole wealth part of it a lot easier to decipher. It's a beautiful thing. But we all have egos as human beings, right? That's a given. And it's just a matter of to what degree we have chosen to master our egos. And so if you know yourself and you are a person that needs to have your space to do your work, you're a lone wolf, you know what I mean? You like to go out here and hunt on your own. You're not trying to hunt with the pack because the pack too slow or the pack makes too much noise in the forest or scare all the deer away. If you know that's not your style, then I don't think people should try to force it. Because I think a lot of times what happens is we see these power couples and we long for that because it just looks and feels right. But that's not for everybody, and that's okay. I think you really got to know yourself and know each other. That's my opinion.
Know yourself and know each other. I dig it.
Yep.
Yeah, I would concur on that one. I would also just add quite simply that you can work together and not work together. You follow what I'm saying? You can have a partnership of support where you're not necessarily in business together, but that person's business is your business, and and vice versa. When you're doing business, they find ways to support you. And I think early on in our relationship, when we weren't doing creative projects, it was, I would help Collette pack a bag for when she was going to perform, where we were getting all our CDs together and getting the PayPal swipe thingy. I can't remember what that thing is called. Forgive me.
It's a swipe thingy.
The swipe thingy. The swipe thingy. Just being like a cheerleader, taking pictures, taking video, and giving it, allowing her to be able to have those things and determine what she wants to do with it, and then also ask, what do you need? You know what I mean? And then do that very thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's a good way to develop the trust to really build a business together, because it's to be in the relationship is one thing, but when you start doing business together, of course it's different. And one way to really just lay that groundwork of, well, how do you work versus how do I work, and how can we trust each other to hold it down on all the little tasks and things that come into play. One good way to warm your way into that is to really just be each other's cheerleader and support system.
Beautiful. Dang, this is good.
It is. So, next question. How do you separate the business conversations from the relationships when accountability is involved?
I think it's one of those things where, I'm the type of dude. So, I work, at the bank, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and I've managed people, and I've definitely have seen where even across, my peers, it's been something where people don't spend enough time listening and offering solutions versus from an accountability standpoint, you can blame somebody and say, why isn't this done yet? Why didn't you do it this way? Versus being able to say, hey, do you need help? Or, you know what? I got it. You know what I mean? Because you might be working on something else, and with good reason, it may not be done. Or if it's not done a particular way, to be able to offer suggestion and be patient with whatever the process is, because you want to get there together. You don't want to get there where, you kind of kick that person in the corner and say, shame on you. I got it now,
Right. And I think the other important thing to keep in mind, which goes hand in hand with that, is always remembering at the end of the day, this person is your partner, is your spouse. And so, while I'm all about excellence and accountability and things being done the right way, we both are, I'm also always going to be his wife first. And so I'm not going to say or do anything that jeopardizes that. And that's, you got to know your value system, I think, going into that. But, at the same time, when it comes to accountability, you should be able to hold each other accountable. And a big part of the relationship should be that trust and even that compassion, where it's not where I can trust that Brian's not just going to come and, kick me while I'm down, so to speak. If I do mess up, or if he does mess up, we're not going to just kind of ride out on each other, but instead it's going to be more about the honesty of what the honest, critique of what happened, that constructive criticism even to be able to help you grow, especially with us being in the creative arts. We got to be able to say to each other, that wasn't it. I wasn't feeling that song. I wasn't feeling that shot. I wasn't feeling that photo or what have you. We do that a lot, and we had to grow into that. I don't want to sit here and act like this has all been kittens and rainbows. We have had to grow. That those first few times we really offered each other a critique of some creative work. And Erykah Badu said it best: when you are an artist, you're sensitive about your itch. So that first few times we had to critique each other was not smooth sailing. And we kind of had to take a moment, step back, think about it, come back and realize that we have each other's best interests at heart. And the same goes for accountability and following through, our tasks. And also now we know each other's strengths. So, I know, first of all, Brian is the master networker. Like, he's going to go out here. He's going to be friends with everybody at the conference or in the building or at the meeting by the end of the hour-long meeting. Like, everybody's going to know him and love him. And then he knows that I'm kind of like the night owl task rabbit. Like, if something needs to, be done and we got to, just get in there and grind it out, I'm willing to kind of just stay there with my face buried in the laptop until it's done. And various other things that we both do well or that one of us does well. And we know that. So another piece of advice my mom used to always give me was, don't go trying to get water from a tree. In other words, I know what Brian's good at. I'm not going to put him in a position to fail. And he's not going to put me in a position to fail either. So it's a lot easier to pursue accountability when you're setting each other up for that success.
That's a beautiful sentiment, and I can tell that there's just a lot of wisdom between you two. So that was just great. Especially the part about really understanding what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, and not, expecting the other person to do what they're not good at. And trying to hold them accountable to, you know what I'm saying? I really think that that's a really key point there.
Thank you. Yeah. And, I really need to say, Brian will stay up all night too on the laptop. I think I'm probably the brainstormer. Maybe that's what I am. I don't really know.
No. You'll definitely, I think when it comes to Collette, she'll lock into it. And I'm definitely probably more the strategic, the creative, ingenuity. All right, if we can't do it this way, we can do it that way. And I think Collette is really good at the nuts and bolts of that. This word may be better than the word that you originally thought of because this is going to maximize the hits on the, social media page, So I think we complement each other in a variety of different ways. And we know when to pull back when the other person has, a little bit more expertise.
I love it. Basically, you put some respect on the other person's skill set.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So how would you say you keep business issues between you from spilling over into your relationship?
Well, do we? No, I'm joking. The good news is that we are basically almost always on the same page with business. What comes in is when we're having an issue with, some outside entity, like a client or a project partner, somebody in the community acting up. And then that's when it gets sticky because we vent to each other, we problem solve with each other. And we get in there and try to figure stuff out. Right. And so you don't want to spend all your home time, talking about and hashing out the business stuff. Right. And it's the balance we're still figuring out. I'm gonna be very transparent. I think a couple of the hacks that we've learned is to try not to do work in our bedroom. Our bedroom, we try to maintain it as a sacred space for rest and holiness. And so I think anyway,
okay,
so I think
hallelujah.
I mean, he's married, so yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it is holy. So we try to maintain that boundary. And I think, another boundary, Brian will definitely tell me, hey, you probably want to wrap it up. You've been on the computer a long time. You want to give your eyes a rest before you head to bed. Or, I'll tell Brian, first of all, don't be in there working on the laptop in the dark. You're going to go blind. Things like that. Like we'll try to look out for each other's kind of like health and self-care and work-life balance. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, we'll bring each other food while each other is working and that kind of thing. And so then that way it's a little bit easier to say, all right, we work together, but we're still a human being.
Right.
And we're not, that's the biggest boundary we try to keep, is to make sure that the work never like swallows up our humanity and our care for each other, doing the little things to make sure each other's okay while we're working.
Yeah, I mean, to me, at the end of the day, and I think we said this earlier, when it comes to this stuff that we're doing, we don't have the business if we don't have each other. The business is not what it could be, and it's not whole if we're not whole. Yeah. And I think we focus on making sure that we're whole. And if there's anything that comes in between that, if one person is not feeling a work situation, and we're like, all right, we're gonna do this one more thing for this, whatever it is, and then we're done because the partnership is not feeling, whatever it is to continue.
Yeah.
And this partnership comes first before any business external relationship that we might have. And whatever the goal is, I know God has us. So whatever the outcome is, I think it's really focusing on each other and having faith that if it's for both of you, then it's for both of you. And if it's not, then it's not for us.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love everything you guys just said, especially the tone of care for one another. And, I know that sometimes, depending on how you're feeling, you looking out for somebody, you looking out for one another. It seems like it's just second nature to you guys, and that you don't necessarily take offense to it if somebody, like you said, like Collette, if you say, like, oh, okay, you're at the computer too long, you're gonna hurt your eyes, or something like that, and it's not being taken as you're trying to control me, but it's actually like, no, I'm trying to care for you, and so I love that aspect of it, and I guess I just wanted to follow that up by asking you to give the listeners some tips that you would suggest to couples who are thinking about going into business together right now.
My first tip is to take your time and feel your way into it. Take on something. Take on something small to medium sized project wise together at first. So like for us, that was like maybe a 1-minute promo video.
Yeah.
And then so the next project now we're hoping to do a feature-length documentary film, which is like 100 times bigger, and we've done other things in between.
We did the short Steam City.
Yep, that's right. We did do a short film, about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're kind of working our way up incrementally.
Yeah.
And now if you coming out of the gate doing some big huge project, that's fine too. But for people who are really trying to figure out if it's something that could even work for them, I definitely think taking those smaller steps, working your way into it, figuring out who's good at paperwork versus who's good with people, and who's good with money versus who's going to be good with supplies and purchasing and things like that. Talk through those things. And another thing that we do, to go back to the question earlier about sort of how do we set it up in terms of our time, we have business meetings. We'll say to each other, let's have a business meeting Wednesday at 7. Or can we have a business meeting today at 4? Or even, I need a business meeting now. Right. But we kind of announce it that way to each other to sort of say, okay, real quick, because Brian and I are silly, right? We in play mode a lot of the time. So that sort of announcing, I need a business meeting, says, okay, real quick, we need to get serious. I got a couple points I want to cover with you and tasks I want to try to get completed. So, being able to say to each other, you know, right now, this is a time where I want to talk business with you. Here are some of the tasks. Talk through, have to-do lists, things like that, just so that you're not sort of doing a bunch of guessing as you go along, but really give yourself that small baby step sort of project and have a list of tasks, and then set yourself a regular meeting time to really see what it feels like. And if it goes well with that first little small project, then do a bigger project and work your way up. That's my advice. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say that, you know, when it comes to anything that you do, say you are in, you know, the driver's seat, so to speak, and, you know, wife is on shotgun, and she says, hey, make a left, and you're like, no, I think we need to make a right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if she really believes that maybe, you know, the turn that she's suggesting is important and critical, and you hear her out in terms of what the argument is for that,
mm-hmm.
and understanding that the partnership is important, I think it's smart to, even if you think you might be right, knowing that no one is 100% right. You know what I mean? I mean, no, and it's not, and to me, I think it's one of those things that as long as you're listening and she's listening and you recognize that you're listening to each other, and if there's that degree of uncertainty where, she might be right, you know, and you understand that in that particular situation, that there's a possibility that you're wrong, then let's go on this journey together. And if we're wrong, we are wrong together. And if we're right, we are right together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the only way that it really kind of like comes together, because you have to learn to trust each other, even if there's a moment where you might have some doubt, but still believe in each other. And if for some reason or another, you know, you were right, she was wrong, you're right and wrong together.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd rather it be that way than be right by yourself.
Yes, I definitely love that. Wow. And so, you know, now, you know, make sure to tell these viewers, you know, if you right, you together, you right together. You can't be sitting up blaming the other one, talking about some, see, told you. Do y'all fall into any like you know, I told you so moments?
Right. You know, nobody wants to hear I told you so, especially not at home and at work, which is also at home. Like,
right.
It's just, you don't want to, you know, pile on to your partner.
But I think you're also learning together, right? And I think that is the most important thing, is that you're learning together versus I got this, I know, and there's no opportunity for us to learn together in this process, but just listen to what I say and what I tell you, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I'll throw another tip in there, too. It's the two of you, yes, but also one good way to build in some guardrails, you know, so that your business that you have together doesn't destroy your relationship, is to have good consultants around you, as you know, especially as your business grows. But even at the beginning, that good accountant to handle them taxes for you, and then depending on what field you're in, that good lawyer to advise you on like copyrights and intellectual property, or, you know, if you're in another type of business, that good real estate agent or just what have you, you know. But having those folks to weigh in with that expert, you know, guidance will also help you both to not have to get yourself into situations where you got to say, I told you so, or somebody's feeling bad because something got messed up. I mean, mistakes are going to happen. We're human. But having those consultants to help you out, especially in the early going, so all your paperwork is good, you know, so you're not in the credit bureau, so the IRS ain't coming after you, you know what I mean? Those people will definitely help your relationship by helping out your business so that it's not a source of stress.
And I think it's important that you're both involved in that process, and not one person is doing one particular thing, or if they are, they're coming back with the learning so that you're both growing at the same time, at the same rate.
Yeah, don't end up like Angela Bassett character in Waiting to Exhale.
Oh my!
I was your lover and your step good chick.
Sang it.
Listen, if you burn my Jaguar, I'm suing. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
Oh my God.
So guys, I want to end on, so if you could encapsulate everything in 2 words about what you think, it like can help couples survive in a business together, what would they be?
Can I put the word "the" in the middle, which is technically an article, so it's not a word?
Don't do that.
Oh, she just broke it down.
Yes.
Come on, Grammarly.
The words. I'll go.
Okay, please.
All right. So my 2 words are reciprocity and I think bold. Just be bold. You have each other. You have each other's back. I hate to use the phrase Bonnie and Clyde, but I think that's what people will identify with. But for me, I think I'll probably go more with, because I'm very much a history buff. Akhenaten and Nefertiti. I'll go with, a Moses and Sephora. I'll go with Moses and Sephora. You know what I mean? Go biblical on you. You know what I mean? And listen, I can run a list of partnerships that thrive and are supportive partnerships that the evidence is there, is that you could do, you really can do anything when you have that type of backing at home. You can do anything.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
Preach. You better preach on today. Tuesday night Bible study in session.
He passing the collection plate, y'all. He passing the plate. I think my 2 words are going to be honor and joy. I think that honor is really important because when you honor who you are and who God has made you to be, then you hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone can hold you to. And so therefore, people, your partner's ability to trust you, or the people that you're doing business with, their ability to trust you, everybody is resting assured that even when things don't go well, you gave it your absolute best. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to prosper. And then when you honor your partner, then you are not going to fall victim to some of the things like some of the trappings of business when it comes to the ways that the business world can undermine your relationship. If you honor your partner, you know that you're there to stay. You're there to ride through the ups and downs, like those couples Brian just mentioned. And then the second word, I think I said, was joy. And I think you have to value the principle of joy. And ultimately, while every day is not going to be fun and games, the work itself should be a source of joy. And doing it with your partner should also be a source of joy, ultimately. That feeling of, while I may not have enjoyed being out in the 100-degree heat holding a camera, I do know that when I got back to the studio and we edited that footage, and then we started, putting the music to it, and we were just in there, grooving and looking at what we created, and then the final product came together, that anticipation of that journey, that anticipation and that journey are a source of joy. And so you ultimately, if you honor yourself, who you're made to be, honor your partner, and then ultimately honor the end goal, which is joy, I think you'll be on the right path. Honor and joy. She's giving you joy, right. Joy. That girl, she brings me joy. That's Brian singing, y'all.
And we not cutting that out. That is going right in this podcast. Yes.
Well, on that note, I think that was the perfect. I think that was the perfect ending to this. We really do want to thank you guys, Collette and Brian. And also, we want to give you guys like a minute to, like shout out anything that you got going on right now. Like if you have social media that you guys can bring up. No matter what you say, we're going to link everything, in the description so people can go ahead and click on it. But just so that you guys can give just a little bit of context too.
Yeah. So I think top of my list right now is working on a campaign with Representative Reginald Boulding in AZC4C, and it's a media campaign to get out the census and get our people represented, which is very important. We need to be counted, and that's right up my alley in terms of making sure the things that need to get done for our people are being done, and supporting those type of efforts. I'm actually also really proud of, this is going a little bit back, but I'm proud of a project that we did just kind of on the whim with Mass Liberation AZ, and covering a Black Caucus, which is like a local, organizing of people to talk about candidates and political issues. And I really enjoyed shooting Colette's mini music video, a cover of Bill Weathers' Lovely Day. That's probably the most recent thing that we just completed. So, I think there's so much that we do and like to do. So I would just reference blackriverlife if you want to see what we do and what we're about. And then also Colette's Coco Watson on Instagram, and Venus Clapback. Of course, I can't leave that out.
Which is our podcast dedicated to Black women's joy, health, and liberation.
And I believe there's a conversation coming up with Venus Clapback. Supporting.
We're going to be having a conversation with Tempe Center for the Arts about placemaking, which is this idea of using the way we design our neighborhoods to promote justice. So there's a lot of projects we have going on, and like Brian said, the best place to find us is our website, which is www.blackriver.life. And you can also follow Black River Life on Instagram. You can follow me, Collete Watson, on Instagram. And you can follow Brian. His name on Instagram is afristocracy. So we're on all the platforms, but I think we're most active on Facebook and Instagram. And we're real easy to find from that website, blackriver.life.
All right.
Thank y'all so much. Now, Collette and Brian, I'm going to need y'all to message me or text me the name of Brian's Instagram, okay? So we can make sure that we
He's so extra. That's how much he is. He is just extra Black.
I'm for it. But we want to make sure we have it tagged on the podcast. So, absolutely. Well, again, thank y'all so much for taking time out of your evening to join us tonight to answer some questions for us. We truly, truly appreciate you guys. And anything else, guys, before we go?
You guys were amazing. You guys offered like a lot of great insight, and we really, really, really do want to thank you guys for that. I think, like just people and a lot of couples listening to this will, this will help them in their struggles and give them a lot of insight on how they can move forward and, continue on with their business and their relationships going forward.
Wow. Well, that means the world to us. If we can, like the hymn says, if we can help somebody, that's what it's all about. And, I just want to thank y'all for thinking enough of us to want us to be on your show. That means a lot.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks so much, guys. And we look forward to talking to y'all soon and seeing y'all soon as we done with this quarantine, because I'm ready for outside to open back up.
Yeah.
Listen, we having a 24-hour party. As soon as the quarantine is over, we having a 24-hour party in our backyard. Details forthcoming.
In all the words of Diddy, can't stop, won't stop, can't stop, won't stop. Quarantine is over. Quarantine is over, y'all. Quarantine is over.
I'm so down for that, man. A 24-hour party? Shoot. All I'm gonna do my version of a party is waking up, eating snacks, taking naps, and then doing it all over again. Party!
Hey, turn up.
All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all again, and y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll catch y'all later.
Okay.
You guys.
Y'all have a wonderful evening too.
Enjoy your evening. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Life around us. Wasn't that good?
That was amazing. That was amazing. So just to recap for their social media handles, again, we will be posting this on when we publish our podcast on Fridays, guys. But again, you can follow Collette Watson on Instagram on her personal page at Collette Watson. You can also find Brian Watson by following him on Afristocracy. I'm going to spell that for you because I actually found him on Instagram. So that is AFRISTOCRACY. So make sure you follow him on Instagram. And then if you want to keep abreast of all the events that they have going on with Black River Life Media, you can go to their website at www.blackriver.life, or you can also follow them on Instagram at Black River Life. Thank y'all again. Thank you so much, Brian and Collette Watson, for joining us this evening and answering some of those questions. We really appreciate you guys.
And we also want to thank Brian and Nancy as well.
Yes, Young. Yes. Brian and Nancy Young. Thank y'all earlier for jumping in with us and talking to us and giving us some great tips for couples that are maybe looking into doing business, or maybe those tips for couples that are doing business that need to learn how to recreate and do business better. So we really appreciate both the couples for joining us tonight and interviewing with us. I had a good time, y'all. Yeah. This was fun.
That was,
very, very good time.
It taught me a lot, and I'm not even in, a relationship right now, but it's like, it's really eye-opening, and it makes you, just think about, like, okay, so, like, this is how I can apply these things to my own personal life, and make it better. And honestly, what I learned is basically communication and transparency is key, honestly.
Oh, that's super key. High key. Yeah. Mm-hmm. High key.
Yeah, I see how you put that little plug in there talking about something. Yeah, I'm not in a relationship right now, so for all the ladies out there, if y'all want to holler at a brother, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You think you slick with that, don't you?
I'm not mad.
It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't on purpose.
I'm not mad. So just all you lovely ladies out there, Aunt is single. And ready to mingle.
Well, after the quarantine, though.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Not during.
Not trying to get sick.
Yeah, for sure. So,
y'all keep all y'all cooties to yourself until after the quarantine, and then maybe we can have a discussion.
Yeah. At your house.
With a mask on, 6 to 10 feet away.
There we go.
All right, y'all. Well, we had a good time. We hope y'all enjoyed the podcast. Hey, make sure you're following us on all of our social media handles. You can find us on Instagram at Life Around Us Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook at Life Around Us Podcast. And check us out on SoundCloud and YouTube as well. Yes. And make sure we will be editing this tonight, and it will be published on Friday. So you want to make sure that you're following us on SoundCloud and YouTube so you can check out this episode 2 of Life Around Us Podcast, and the topic tonight was business and relationships. Real ones, not hypothetically speaking ones. All right, anything else, Vaughn?
I'm a pop.
Sweetheart, love.
Honestly, I thought that was a great ending.
Yeah, that's what I thought so too. Hypothetically.
We can leave it at that. Honestly.
Yeah, hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically. Suppose, I don't know. All right, y'all. Well, we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Catch y'all in a couple weeks for episode 3. Make sure you follow us so you can get the next topic. It's going to be an interesting one. You're going to love it. And I think you guys are going to really have some great feedback for this next topic. So be on the lookout for episode 3. I'm bilingual. Okay.
Capricorn.
You're Capricorn. I'm bilingual. I have 2 Capricorns.
I'm Jewish.
Oh, okay. Black Jewish. Those are real things.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note,
good
night. Good night, y'all.